Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Travolting. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering the 1976 film Carrie. With very special guest, Matt Abalde. Thank you all for joining us today, folks. As the intro said, my name is Jeff Sweeney, and I'm joined by
Stuart Elmore.
And this is Travolting, the only podcast devoted exclusively to covering every single movie ever blessed by the presence of the one and only John Travolta.
Man, the myth, the legend.
Today we are covering the 1976 Brian De Palma film Carrie, and we are joined by very special guest and good friend of the show, Matt Abalde.
Hello.
Yes, that is him.
How's it going?
Going well. How about you?
You know, I watched Carrie last night, so that's how it's going.
What a movie.
What a movie.
I watched it at 2 a.m.
Whoa. All hour and 38 minutes at 2 a.m.
Yep.
This movie's only an hour and 38 minutes long.
It feels longer.
That is shocking.
It is really shocking.
It should be a lot shorter.
Like, you think this would be a longer or a shorter movie?
But it's right at 98 minutes.
It is. I thought this was going to be like a 2.5 hour.
Yeah, in a good way, it felt long. To me.
Yeah.
To me, it felt long in a good way. So should we? Yes. We should probably get into, obviously, the plot. You know, Carrie, the 1976 version, pretty popular.
Very popular movie. But before we get into the plot of this movie, or get into it, let's just provide some context, lay the groundwork for leading into this movie with the focus of our show. John Travolta, the man, the myth, the legend. At this point in his career, he had just wrapped up filming The Devil's Reign, a movie that we covered last week on the podcast and that hopefully you've listened to. And he was also co-starring on the show Welcome Back, Kotter, as the character of Vinnie Barbarino, which is a lovely name.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's one day while on the set of Welcome Back, Kotter, this is a fun fact, he went to audition for a little movie called Carrie. He showed up in his costume from Welcome Back, Kotter, did the whole audition dressed as Vinnie Barbarino, and was later cast in this film, directed by Brian De Palma. And the rest is history. It kind of provided the lightning rod that would propel the rest of his career from this point on.
In such a short role, but the fact that the movie became as big as it was, I mean, it undeniably really helped him in his future career.
Yeah, it would help him get Grease and Saturday Night Fever and all the movies that we'll be discussing coming up.
Yeah. I mean, this is 2 movies. This is 1 year before his Saturday Night Fever, which, he got an Oscar nom for that one.
Yeah.
And so, he really does kick it off fast, quick, and really early.
Yes.
So, but yeah, very much so. This is like after Devil's Reign when he was doing the ABC series Welcome Back, Kotter. And as Jeff was saying, how he got into connection to getting into Carrie, 1976.
Yeah. Fun fact about him auditioning for this movie is they were auditioning Carrie and Star Wars at the same time.
Oh, lovely.
So when he went into audition for this, he also probably auditioned for Star Wars. Likely as Han Solo, dressed as Vinnie Barbarino.
Very likely as Han Solo.
But that is just crazy that they were casting those 2 movies at the same time.
I do want to imagine him as a Chewbacca audition. Because you imagine he's reading the lines and he's like, excuse me, George Lucas? Like, yeah. What's the question? And he's like, so in the script here, I just it says roar. It's like, yeah, that's what Chewbacca does. Just roar. He's like, okay. So it's any kind of roar? And he's like, yeah, just any kind of roar. Just do it whenever you want. It's like, all right. So then John Travolta takes a few steps back. He goes, and then Jeff, what did George Lucas say after that?
Yeah, pretty good. We'll a little faster, more intense. Come back later.
So then he walks into Carrie, and then he lands that role of Billy Nolan.
You know what is funny, though?
What is funny?
It is with this scenario of them casting at this. Like, they were in the same room.
Yeah.
De Palma and George Lucas, and they just had all these actors reading lines. By all accounts and purposes, George Lucas did not speak at all, and De Palma would do all the auditioning.
Yep.
Is it highly likely that Carrie Fisher auditioned for Carrie?
Oh.
Which could have been a lovely scenario of Carrie and
so
Carrie.
I don't want to like make any false claims about her age. Like, how old was she during 1976?
She was like 18, 19 when she did
guess
Star Wars.
I guess it would have been proper age role for Carrie.
I mean, better than Sissy's Space
Sissy
Icon.
Spacek.
She was 27
Yeah.
when she made this movie.
Wow, really?
I mean, she looks great.
She
the
does
role.
look
Like,
great.
she looks like a good 18-year-old.
I guess it's just like Princess Leia seems like a more mature
Yeah.
figure in New Hope.
Yeah, that's the fascinating thing is that Princess Leia feels more mature despite being played by an 18-year-old.
Whereas Carrie
Is the
was like-
opposite.
it's the
Feels
absolute
young, but
opposite.
played by a 27-year-old.
Very fascinating stuff. Love where we're going with this already.
Anyway, before we get too deep into Star Wars,
Which we won't on this
Which
podcast.
John Travolta is not in.
Not
which
in at all.
Very sadly, he's not in.
To our knowledge.
Imagine John Travolta as Grand Moff Tarkin.
He might have been a stormtrooper like Daniel Craig was in Force Awakens.
John Travolta just walks in and he's like, the weapon systems on the... I can't do it, Travolta. I'm cutting myself
Well,
off.
I think to kind of go off Stuart's point, I think because we don't know, he could have been any stormtrooper. We have to watch all of the Star Wars films because he might have been in them.
Because, like Daniel Craig was that stormtrooper in Force Awakens that when Rey does the Jedi mind trick, which he does it very well. Almost as good as, Mandalorian acting right there.
And there's a deleted scene for the best movie of all time, Star Wars The Last Jedi. That is not hyperbole. I think that's a masterpiece. But anyway.
You just lost all of our followers.
Yeah, we have just lost 50% of our viewership.
Yep.
Thank you all for
Which
listening.
was 2 people.
Thank you all for listening. This has been Travolting. You can follow us at Travolting on Twitter. But no, there's a deleted scene in The Last Jedi where Tom Hardy and Prince William and Prince Harry's the other one, were stormtroopers as well.
Wow.
Deleted. You can watch it on the Blu-ray DVD combo pack. You can probably also watch it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But like I
Carrie.
said, this is not
Back to
a
Carrie.
advertisement for the Star Wars franchise. Stuart and I will do our podcast Talking Troopers another day, in which we discuss in detail
I had no information about this at all.
every single stormtrooper in the movie. So we're gonna have an episode about them.
Yeah.
TK, we're gonna start from TK 001 to 2K 427.
All right.
Anyway, Carrie, directed by Brian De Palma, came out in 1976. Great movie.
Great movie.
Wait, who directed it and when did it come out again?
Brian De Palma, 1976.
What? So
What?
for people who can't see, Matt is like grinning and smiling right now, which makes Jeff and I a little concerned because here we are.
I'm really hoping
complimenting
Matt's
the movie.
about to say he watched the 2013 Carrie by accident.
No. No, it's just I believe that is the 7th time you've said that this is directed by Brian De Palma and it came out in 1976.
Well, it is directed by Brian De Palma, and it did come out in 1976.
That's going to be the YouTube comment. Gee, I wonder if this is directed
Stuart,
by
did
Brian
you
De
know
Palma.
that this movie, Carrie, released in 1976, directed by the one and only Brian De Palma.
Brian De Palma?
Best known for writing the crawl of the original Star Wars. Wow. It's back to that.
Bring us back.
So yeah, this is secretly a Star Wars podcast.
Hey, Jeff, should we talk about the plot of Carrie?
We should probably talk about Carrie.
Start episode now.
Yes. Anyway, so Carrie, based on
Directed by Brian De Palma.
directed by Brian De Palma, based on the novel by Stephen King.
First novel turned into a movie.
Yeah, his first novel in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Came out in 1974. I decided to be a good podcast host and reread the book prior to watching the movie on Saturday.
And try hard.
Do you want to know the funniest thing about comparing the book and the movie? Is I would say this movie is not particularly chill.
Yeah.
I would say it's a little brutal at times.
Uh-huh.
The book is 10 times worse. Like, this movie is a family-friendly jaunt compared to the book.
In what way?
Well, you kind of get the I mean, we'll get to it later, but you get the impression in this movie that the mom does have some care for Carrie,
Yeah.
even if it's very warped. In the book, she's just like, I'm going to stab my daughter.
We love to see it.
I mean, in the movie, she does stab her
yes,
daughter.
it does happen the same way, but there's a little more hesitation.
There's like
Yeah.
a whisper of affection that she might have towards Carrie as a daughter.
There's a lot more murder in the book.
Well,
Yeah.
she does burn down an entire school gym with people
The
inside.
whole town gets like destroyed in the
Yeah,
Oh.
like 500 people died.
Did they do that in the remake?
They did.
She like was
They
more
did.
destructive in the remake.
yeah.
Yeah, this is really
She's like
chilled.
walking down the street in the remake, like actually like throwing cars up and like cracking the concrete
love
of
to
like
see
the
it.
street.
This is going to lead into our sister podcast, the Moretz Cast, in which we talk about Chloe Grace Moretz's career from Carrie 2013.
I can't do this right now, Jeff.
This is already a disaster.
So
Wait, we were supposed to do this like a straight podcast? I thought this was going to be comedic.
No, this is a very serious investigation.
no bits allowed.
Yeah. Yes.
So
In the words of a podcast 10 times better than this is a no bits podcast.
okay, so Carrie
Anyway.
White, a shy, friendless teenage girl who was sheltered by her domineering religious mother, unleashes her telekinetic powers after being humiliated by her classmates at her senior prom.
Yes. So
Which doesn't happen until the very end of the movie, but you know.
it remarkably like
Similar to Devil's Reign, how we don't figure out what the point of the movie is until an hour in.
great movie. Both great movies.
Not a great movie.
Anyway, Carrie. So start the movie off with gym class. There's a bunch of people doing jumping jacks and all that fun stuff.
Yep. Beautiful crane shot opening.
Beautiful crane shot. Pushes into the locker room.
Well, you're forgetting like when we actually get the introduction to Carrie, it's like, don't toss to
It's
Carrie.
the
She's gonna-
volleyball game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the volleyball game.
and
she's
she
alone.
misses the ball, and we're immediately getting
I actually found something really interesting visually. If I could talk about that right
course.
now, or if we
Yeah.
want to just, it's just, I forget the character's name, but she's always wearing a red hat. Is one of the
Norma.
the supporting cast, Norma.
yeah.
I have thoughts.
I found that just opening shot really interesting, or not that introduction shot to Carrie really interesting, because immediately you're just like, oh, well, obviously the one person wearing red is the main character, but it's actually the most unassuming person that's there is your main character, and just the way that was shot with and color wise, I thought it was very good, and just immediately like setting your expectations for the film.
That's actually an interesting point. I didn't even think of that. That the red hat draws your attention, and you would assume that you're going to focus on that, and then
And then the camera keeps moving, and then we see
Yeah.
this girl in the back of the court that's presumably not very important, totally missed a volleyball shot, and that sort of gets into a first introduction of who she is, that she's an outsider, and she's known for being an outsider too. It's not that people just don't talk to her, people choose not to talk to her. And so,
insane.
And
about-
they choose to be fucking bullies to her.
yeah,
which brings
Like-
us into the locker room.
yeah. We're in the locker room. I have a question. Do you guys think that Brian De Palma likes Psycho? In which he uses the Psycho music during a shower
lot.
scene at a high school called Bates High School.
And
Do you
when
think he likes?
I'm just like jumping way ahead, but like when they do like butcher a pig, that's called Bates packing. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of Psycho drawbacks to this film. Like those
I
violin
mean,
string
the
scores.
editing too.
Yeah. A lot of it comes back into Psycho.
Brian De Palma might be a fan. I think
Might be a fan
possible.
of Psycho and maybe just Hitchcock.
But yeah, Carrie is getting a shower. Everyone's kind of getting dressed in the room they're done with the shower, but she's really luxuriating in the shower. You can tell that she doesn't get this opportunity that much. And then while she's looking down and washing herself, she notices blood running down her leg.
Yes, her period.
She gets her first period. She's justifiably concerned about this and starts screaming. The rest of the class sees that happening.
And they're a bit
and-
confused because it's just
Like,
a
yeah,
period.
it happens. So they all start throwing tampons and
Plug
pads and
it
whatnot.
up.
Yep, and
Plug
chanting,
it
plug
up.
it up.
Plug it up. One of my favorite lines in the movie.
That's actually awful what they're doing to
It
this
is
poor,
horrible.
poor girl. She's screaming. She's huddled in the corner, just being pelted by all these sanitary products.
Enter.
Betty Buckley as the
Miss Collins.
teacher, as Miss Collins. That's right. She is named Miss Desjardins in the book. It took me a second to figure out what
The producers are like, we're not putting somebody named Desjardins. Let's just change it to
Oh,
Collins.
suck it.
Yeah.
But no, she's played by the great Betty Buckley, who I've only ever seen as an old woman in movies. So this
Great job, though.
Is, so
I mean, everybody does a great job in this
Yes.
movie, really.
this is a very well directed movie.
Yeah. So she comes in.
She is pushing through the crowd to figure out what's going on. She pushes one girl, Sue Snell, which is a great name, to the wall and is like, "Why are you doing this?" And Sue like has a realization in that moment. Eventually, she pushes through the crowd, grabs Carrie, and gets her out of there. Brings her to the principal's office, where we have this amazing split diopter shot of Carrie and
A lot of diopter shots in this.
and the what's her name, the secretary, where you can kind of see Carrie like out of the corner of her eye, hoping that this woman doesn't look at her and judge her. Meanwhile, all these people are walking by the window, staring at her. It's a great scene of visual storytelling.
Yeah.
It's also when I was writing notes for this movie throughout it, I started by just like writing the split diopter shot's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I just did that like every 5 minutes
Because there's a lot of them.
because I thought it was like just going to be a power like shot, and then I realized no, Brian De Palma just likes to use split diopter shots.
Yeah.
So I had to stop writing notes about halfway through this movie because I was just exclusively pointing out how cool split diopters were and having no conversation about anything else that was happening.
Yeah. So, and also, can we talk about this principal and keep fucking calling her Cassie? She's like, it's not Cassie, it's Carrie. And then she like tosses off the ashtray, which, so they do give, also, we kind of forgot about that as she's freaking out in the shower, she like breaks a light, and we get planted these like subtle little hints of what Carrie is capable of. And I mean, I would presume, like, you know, being that it's a book adaptation, like with anything, like you kind of make this with the assumption that a portion of your audience is already going to know the story behind Carrie and Carrie having powers. So we're not going to like be too subtle about it. Like we're just going to like sprinkle in some hints that she has these like abilities, but they do sprinkle them in throughout. So like we have that like the light fixture in the shower, then we have the ashtray in the principal's office.
I find it interesting. My apologies. I find it interesting that this movie has a lot of similarities with The Shining in that respect.
Yeah.
They're both not movies based off of Stephen King, where a character has like telekinetic abilities. And the biggest difference between the books and the movies of both of them is that they put less emphasis on that.
Yeah.
Like in The Shining, it's almost a complete afterthought that the kid has The Shining.
Yeah.
Kubrick was obviously much more concerned with the Jack Nicholson plot line and all that.
It was very much more of like a cabin fever like movie.
Whereas in this film, in the book, the telekinesis is kind of just slowly ramped up to, and there's a lot of explanation as to where it came from, and there's like chapters which are just articles about where people hypothesizing where she got it. But the movie's not concerned with that, rightfully so, from De Palma's what he's focused on, and just wants to be like, yeah, she has telekinetic abilities. Let's watch this movie. Let's watch this stuff happen.
Yeah. So after the principal's office,
Carrie goes home.
yes, and then we get introduced to that amazing Piper Laurie who plays Margaret White, who, interesting enough, I read some trivia of this movie. Like, she apparently thought it was like a black comedy because she thought that her lines were so ridiculous and so like over the top. It's like, there's no way this is a horror, serious drama movie. Like, Brian was like, no, like this is really serious. Like, you feel like lean into it. And apparently in interviews, like she does, it's like, to this day, I still think it's like a comedy. But that being said, she plays an amazing, fanatic, fundamental evangelical Christian mom. Like from the moment you see her, and like the production design of the house and her costuming, like everything just screams like fundamentalist Christian who maybe is going to go over the edge sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time we see her is she's actually going to Sue Snell's house to talk to her mom. That's the first intro we see of Margaret White, and she's like passing out like not Bibles or like
She's spreading the gospel.
she's spreading the gospel. So I don't know what affiliation she is. Is she like Jehovah's Witness or is she?
In the book, they don't have an affiliation. She feels like affiliations are sinful.
For the rest of this podcast, I'm going to say she's a Mormon.
Hello.
I have zero
My
context.
name is Elder Margaret.
I have zero context to believing if she is Mormon, but I'm just going to assume she's a Mormon. So anyway, continuing on.
Yes, we're introduced to her. She's at Sue Snell's house trying to kind of get her mom to read something and also collecting money for presumably herself because we never have an affiliation connected to it.
Right.
She's like, I don't like her own one-person evangelical.
You know, if that's her job, if that's what she does to pay the bills, phew, Good on her, man.
I will do that.
I mean, do a lot of tough things for change.
It was really interesting just seeing the house that they live in,
Yeah.
and thinking like, especially with the modern economy.
She's running off of a evangelicals legend. Matt, you're a production designer.
That is correct.
Fun fact for everyone on this podcast. Matt is a great production designer. He's worked with me on films in the past. And in looking at this house, it pretty much looks like it was mostly a set. Is there anything that you find particularly interesting or compelling about the
We're
design?
talking about the White's house, Carrie's house.
Yeah, the White's house.
Yeah,
not the,
the White's
Snell's
house.
house. Yeah.
I mean, it was light, and I think that worked really well. There were some key set decoration elements, but it was really light in the decoration department for the most part, and I think that was really important, just to like drive your eye to the key things that are just, she has like the Last Supper up on the wall, like up by her dining table, and then like in the closet where she puts Carrie, it's like there's like the Bible, the fucking terrifying Jesus thing.
Bright-eyed Jesus. Yellow-eyed Jesus.
The thing is so scary. I kept expecting it to move.
I
was like,
too.
I know that just does not move. Because, like, obviously. I kept going, oh, it's coming to life.
It's just, it's light and in a way that makes it, that kind of pushes the idea that, they are not materialistic. Especially, she has this sewing machine, Mama White, and she has the it literally says like the plaque on it has their name on it, and it's kind of, I believe in the book, doesn't she makes dresses, right?
Yeah, they like make doilies and dresses for themselves rather than purchase. And the mom works at a laundromat in the book.
That's interesting.
Which this movie doesn't feel a need to go into, which fine.
Right. But it's just, it gives the kind of like, that feeling of just someone who's just so religious, so into their religion, where the only things that look like they're purchased have something to do with religion.
Yeah. The only money spent is on their faith.
Yeah.
So Carrie gets home.
And she goes up to her room, and then we cut to the mom coming home. Margaret walks in the door. Carrie doesn't want to talk to her. And the mom answers the phone. Carrie perches herself at the top of the steps to listen to what her mom is talking about.
And her mom has telepathic powers because she's like, I know you're there.
Yeah. The mom's on the phone. You can see her face falling as she hears from the school what happened during the day.
Yeah, that Carrie got her period.
Yeah. She tells Carrie to come down. Carrie walks down. Is beaten by her mother, thrown to the floor, and forced to read
Bible verses that sort of depreciate her value as a woman.
Yeah, as about like the sinfulness of sexuality and how the only reason she got her period was because she had sinful thoughts.
Yeah.
That if you are true and chaste, you will not become a woman, is what she says.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we get that fanaticism from her Mormon mom.
And it's a very brutal sequence. It's disturbing to watch. The Bible verses that she's reading were actually made up for the movie.
That's fascinating.
Kind of just does this interesting effect of the mom is so like deep into this, even like into her faith, that it's almost a new level of it. It's a new thing beyond normal Christianity.
That's a good point, Jeff, because even in the movie, she was like making references to like, I am the only one who's able to do this because I have such a closeness with God, or such a bridge connected to God. And I think going off of that point, it's like she doesn't see herself as simply just like a follower, but like a herald of God.
Yeah, like a prophet of some sort.
Yeah. It's like to the extreme. And so that's where I feel like, coming up with like fake Bible verses is an interesting point to it. That she feels like, whatever comes out of my mouth is warranted by God because I am like God's herald or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're reading
true faith.
Yeah, Mormonism. So,
she locks Carrie in a closet.
Yes,
where she must pray.
Gosh,
and this is where that terrifying
bright-eyed Jesus comes in.
Matt, if you were addressing this movie, What would compel you to truly make that thing terrifying?
I think it serves its purpose in that it paints her religious beliefs as kind of just terrifying. Like I think it just gives like the whole religiousness like something like a single icon in this film to like be like, this is why it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
But,
and just one prop. I will say it was a little too over the top.
It has glowing eyes.
It does seem like it's going to do something. The whole time.
And it never does. I mean, supposedly until the very end, which kind of leaves with some questions that I have. But I can't remember. What's the first thing that comes after that, though? She comes out.
Carrie's locked in the closet, but she exits the closet without the mom unlocking it.
And the mom doesn't react to it.
Is a very subtle thing that happens that you don't even really notice, is that Carrie gets out of the closet without the mom unlocking it.
Yeah.
And the mom doesn't think anything of it. She's like, oh, maybe I didn't unlock it or something like that. But
yeah.
Giving you another one of those subtle hints about her abilities that are coming.
Yeah.
It's another cool split diopter between the mom sewing apathetic to Carrie and Carrie emerging from the closet.
We love those diopter shots.
We do. And then there's another awesome shot when she gets up to her room and looks at herself in the mirror. And then it rack focuses through the mirror to the Jesus portrait on the wall.
I love it.
It's so good.
That's a good one. And then the mirror shatters, right?
The listener at home right now must be so excited to hear me describing these shots that they cannot currently look at.
That had such a cool mirror effect too, where the mirror was warping.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder how they did that.
If
there's someone like behind it, like maybe pushing it, or if they have somebody on the edge of the mirror, like flexing the mirror or something, that I'd be really interested in knowing.
Yeah, it probably has what I would assume is that it's like an acrylic.
Yeah.
Something a little more flexible than normal glass with like aluminum tape on the back. So you could still will reflect like a mirror, and you could warp it a little bit more to just give that it almost felt like a heartbeat where it was just like reaching out,
You have your theories, but the way they actually did it is it's a mocap performance. Andy Serkis is playing the mirror.
Insert bit number 3.
Andy Serkis is playing the mirror he plays the mirror throughout this whole movie. He's up there in the dots.
I mean, I was so ready to hear how they actually did it.
No, I do not. I would assume the acrylic way that you were referring to is probably
or
the real
it's like foil or something. It's definitely not real glass.
It's a cool effect, whatever it is.
It's very cool.
But after that, Carrie returns to bed, and we cut back to the school the next day.
Yeah.
Carrie was told she didn't have to come to gym class, but Miss Collins comes into the room, like rage in her eyes, and she chews out the class.
Yeah.
She chews out Norma with her red hat.
Miss Collins to the rescue.
She chews out what is her name? She chews out Sue for being a good person who made a bad choice. And she yells at Chris. That's the name. Chris Hargison, played by Nancy Allen, who was kind of the ringleader and, in some respect, the most popular girl in the school. She chews her out specifically for kind of leading the witch hunt against Carrie during that classroom.
Witch hunt. Good choice of words.
Yeah, and she tells them all that her punishment for them was that they would get their prom tickets revoked and would receive 3 days suspension. But instead, they only have to do 5 days of detention.
With Miss Collins.
It's something that's interesting to me. Is it seems that their detention is just to be in gym class during their gym period.
Yeah, it's very strange.
When you really think about it, it's like your punishment is I'm going to get you fit into those dresses.
All these people just walk out swole.
They're going to be so fit, and they're definitely getting pregnant after prom.
You assume because Carrie gets to do whatever she wants during that period that it is their gym period because Carrie's excused from gym.
Yeah.
And
forever.
Yeah, and it's like so their detention is just you're doing exercise during gym class.
It's very strange. We never see the actual detention. or we presume that is the detention.
It's just them doing vigorous exercises.
Because Chris Hargensen, at the 10 minutes left with the period, is like, no, fuck this.
Just leaves and is
just
told
leaves.
Suspension and no prom
Gets her
tickets.
prom ticket revoked. Yeah.
Yeah, very
But it's
proud.
like, it just, like I said, it's interesting in that it just seems like the detention is just gym class during gym time.
It's like, sure, I'll do that as a punishment. I'll just go to class. But there's that Miss Collins, because Chris kind of balks at all the exercises they're being forced to do, and there's some weird, like, fun, jaunty music playing over their exercise.
Well, it's like exercise videos from like the 70s. It's like, and squat, and down.
My favorite little part in that is like, at one point she because Norma is doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And she stops, because she's like, come on, keep going. And then the music stops and she's like, Norma, come on, fix your whatever she was doing wrong. And then the music keeps going. It's just like this brief little pause that does not fit in this movie at all.
There's some weird moments of comedy that I love.
Yeah.
Also, shout out Norma for wearing that hat.
All throughout the movie.
In class, she wears it in the halls. She wears it at the prom.
See, I don't
She's
know. She's
wearing a dress and still has that hat on.
I don't know where
also,
you guys
that
went to
hat has a
school.
rainbow. So in my head, Norma is gay.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
That makes it very
It does have a
interesting.
rainbow on the side of it.
I'm getting all the theories coming in now. But no, what I
Norma
wanted
gay
to get,
confirmed.
Yeah, what I wanted to get to was Miss Collins slapping Chris across the face during that detention scene when she's like, Chris is just like storming off, and it's like, I'm not gonna do this, and she uses
Which is the second person she slaps, because she also slaps Carrie.
right, because she slapped Carrie in the shower. She's like, get a hold of yourself, man. And but she slaps like Chris, and she's like, you can't do that to me. And I'm like, bitch, we're in the 70s.
You can do that.
I can hit you all I want, and your parents can't say shit.
Before I'm forgetting what the name of the
Protection against kids.
Yeah, there's some in Loco Parentis. I think that's it.
I believe
Loco
so.
Parentis. But yeah, she slugs Chris and slaps her, and Chris storms off. Her prom ticket's revoked. Norma looks upset about this. That's actually an interesting point you brought up, Matt, because combining the rainbow, I mean, whatever it means. Norma has like a very close attachment to Chris in the movie.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if that's like a subtle point that. Because,
I mean, I just think it was. I mean, realistically, it was just a rainbow on her hat. But
yeah. I mean,
it's a fun little thing.
yeah.
Well, Carrie is a girl who has qualities of herself that make her unacceptable to her religious mom, and one can
That's
only
true.
draw assumptions that one is a metaphor for another, and therefore, this is actually an LGBTQ themed film.
There's an argument to be made that Carrie is representative of that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it was Stephen King's intent in a way,
right.
but the movie is kind of in some regards just about sexual freedom.
Yeah.
And that can be, or not clamping down someone's sexuality for.
Well, right. When you repress someone so much,
They push out, lash out.
You
violently.
lash out, you push out, and you end up killing your entire school and the entire town.
Yes.
And so,
You result in 500 people dying.
right, that is the message of the core message of this movie.
It's about the pressures of control told through religious fervor
Yeah.
and sexual repression.
So after the gym scene,
Yes, after the gym scene.
we're 30 minutes in. We're like 10 minutes into the movie.
No, we got time. We got time.
Yeah.
After the gym scene, we're back at. No, we're not. Where are we right after that?
Well, I wrote down John
I
Travolta
believe
gets introduced 30 minutes into the movie.
We see I believe the next thing is we see Norma with John Travolta, and not Norma.
Sue.
Chris.
Or Chris.
Chris.
Yeah.
Oh,
With John Travolta.
that's what happens next. Is Sue has the idea.
With Tommy.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah.
Sue
Yeah.
feels bad about being a part of the mob against Carrie. So she,
Which I love. That was like such like a nice thing, and I'm just like, ugh. And they'd be doing it probably for the wrong reasons, in the sense that she needs just to like alleviate the guilt from herself.
She's trying to remove her own guilt.
Yeah. So, like, can we really call it selfless? Like,
It's
not
equally
really.
as selfish as it is selfless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a really, because, like, I love how Tommy, and maybe jumping a little too far ahead, just kind of gets into it, you know? He's like, you know what?
Tommy's genuinely interested in asking Carrie out.
He's like, you know what? Like, I'm with Sue, but I'm going to show Carrie a good time and, like, you know, show
And
her.
over time, yeah, he like. Actually, I'll save this for later because it's the climax of the film that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
It's,
And we're not quite there yet.
So we go into the Sue talking to Tommy
and
about
she convinces Tommy to ask Carrie out as an apology.
which I mean, I'd go to prom with Tommy. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah, his hair is insane.
His hair.
It is the craziest thing I've ever
But
seen.
when we get to Travolta in a minute,
Yeah,
Travolta's got the hair.
he
in
was
this
a good
movie.
looking guy.
He is a good looking guy.
Before we get into that, this just came into my mind by what we were just talking about and whether Sue's act is selfish or selfless. I think it's very interesting, both in the movie and in the book, that Sue's action is in some roundabout way what results in the destruction of the school at the end.
Yeah.
And so while Sue's not the focus of this movie or book, she's not the main character, there's a compelling point that it's Sue's selfishness.
She's the inciting
Yep.
incident.
It's her selfishness in doing a selfless thing that corrupts the act and results in the destruction at the end.
Ooh.
That like doing a good thing for the wrong reason is just as bad as doing a wrong thing.
That's interesting.
So I think there's a kind of a compelling point with that.
But like you felt through the movie, like I was enjoying what Sue and Tommy were doing. Like I thought they're doing a nice thing. Like even if it's for the wrong reason, I mean they're doing something great for Carrie. But yeah, in the end, it's like where that foundation came from was I need to alleviate this guilt. You know what I did to Carrie is a horrible thing, and so I'm gonna have my
She's
boyfriend
gonna be haunted by it for the rest of her life, as we see.
at the very end.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Next scene is the introduction of our man,
John
Travolta. But yeah,
I love this bit that we're doing.
This
is like enter.
this is a lovely scene, I think.
I love John Travolta
This
in this
is
movie.
such an American Graffiti-like scene.
I love John Travolta
They're
in this movie.
speeding down the highway,
He's in a
blasting
nice
the rock
car.
music.
Got the windows down.
It tells you everything you need to know about his character.
Oh man.
I love how he's him sipping the beer, because like his friend rolls by and he just takes a swig. These girls roll by, he winks at them and takes another swig. The cops roll by, he's like scrambling to drop the beer.
I love that it follows. You know, it really. This film, like you guys have been kind of alluding to a little bit, it does really feel like a comedy at points. It follows the comedic rule of threes in this scene, where you know you get the first car where it's the guys, like his buddies, and they toss him a beer, and they're like, "Hey, you come into this place with us?" And he's like, "No, I'm with Chris." They toss him a beer, and he starts drinking, and then it's the other girls who like are next, and then it's the cops. I just think it is really. It just has a lot of comedic like foundations into it.
There's some really funny stuff in here. This scene especially.
Yeah. And we got to talk about his hair, because it is the best hair I've ever seen John Travolta. It's better than Grease. It's better than Grease. And it's better than
Are you
Saturday
saying
Night
that Grease is not the word?
I'm saying that out of all John Travolta hairdos that I have seen, and who knows, I might see another movie where he has long hair and I'll feel differently. But to this
Pulp
day,
Fiction much.
2 episodes in, I'm going to say this hair is the best hair.
All right.
Well, now you got to keep up with that, you know.
We're gonna do the hair ranking.
I will do the hair ranking with John Travolta.
At the end of this podcast, we will rank all 66 movies and we will rank all 66 hairdos.
Currently, as it stands, Carrie number 1, Devil's Reign number 2, and then I'm sure Devil's Reign is going to fall deeper on the list because he's wearing a hood.
You never see
his hair in Devil's Reign. He's always wearing a hood.
What a movie!
What a movie!
So
there's more in the car seat that I want to talk about.
So we're in the car. Chris and her boyfriend Billy Nolan, another good name.
Great name.
And they're driving down, and Chris is bothered by obviously that she doesn't get her prom tickets.
Yeah.
But she's just trying to get Billy as mad as she is. And Billy's kind of resistant of it. He's just a devil-may-care, like Hellraiser type.
I just wrote down long, luscious hair, dumb boyfriend of the main bully.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's ready to just go along with whatever Chris wants to do.
Yeah.
In a respect.
With his hair.
They get into a little fight. And it's not until Chris finally says, "I just hate Carrie White."
Yeah.
That they have sex together.
They go to third base.
They go to. I thought they.
She gives him a blowjob.
Oh yeah, that's what happens.
And this is what I want to talk about. So I wrote down blowjob scene. She keeps saying his name while doing it. Yeah. So like presumably she's like going down on him, and you just keep hearing like Billy.
Isn't she saying Carrie?
No, she's saying Billy. Why would she say Carrie's name
I thought she
while
said
blowing her boyfriend?
No, I thought
it does get to the point where she's like, I hate Carrie White.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. Is as she's
but that's like
going
the
down
end of the scene. But it is just her like just saying Billy the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is she just like
giving
with
him
her
a
head
blow?
at his crotch, just Billy, Billy, just staring at it,
There's
just
a lot of
saying
questions.
Billy.
just staring at it and just saying Billy. And but John Travolta, he's obviously the best actor of all time, so he's like going with it. Like it's like, yeah. So Brian De Palma's like, okay, so she's like, you know, giving you a blowjob during the scene, right? So you're like trying to enjoy it. He's like, okay, cool. And he says, and action. And so they go in for it. And like he's doing a really good job. And then he doesn't realize that Nancy Allen playing Chris has her line that says Billy. And so as the scene's going on, this is on take one, right? On set, okay? Mm-hmm. And he's doing his performance. He's pretending he's getting a blowjob. And then Nancy Allen says, Billy. And he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I thought this was a blowjob scene. And then Brian sees John Travolta's face. Like, all right, let's cut. Like, John, is everything okay? What's the issue? It's like, Brian, I just thought, like, isn't she supposed to be like sucking me off during the scene? It's like, yeah, but she's also like saying your name, you know, getting you worked up and getting you like more agreeable. It's like, but like, my penis is in her mouth, Brian. And he's like, yeah, but like, just imagine like, you know, she takes breaks and she says your name and then goes back in, then takes breaks.
I love how much of that is just ADR. It's totally ADR.
Oh,
it's totally done afterwards. Just all those lines.
Oh, that changes everything. That changes everything. Because in the scene,
it's totally EQ differently than the like. It's has like some sort of filter or something. It sounds different than the rest of the dialogue in that scene.
That makes it different because then you have to realize
it's an intentional
she didn't
choice.
have any lines. So there's just 30 seconds of just that going on, and John's like, "Are we gonna cut? I think we got it. I think we got it, Brian. Are we gonna cut?" And he's like, "No. I want this for like 30 seconds." It's like, okay, and it just keeps going. Just like, Brian, I really think we got it.
That would have been a deeply uncomfortable scene or day on set. But yeah,
I want to.
I'm so glad we talked about this.
I'm sorry. I want to talk about something that happens right before that, though. Is that he gets distracted by like talking to her while they're driving, and they almost get into an accident, and he swerves because she's like, Billy, as they're like about to hit someone, and it is the tiniest motion I've ever seen on a steering wheel, where it just feels like he was like, oh yeah, I gotta move like. I'm trying to like describe it rather than just like show it because this is a podcast, but it's like. It's literally like the equivalent of just moving from like 12 o'clock to like 1 to like 12:01. It's like,
and then we get the wonderful ADR line of the guy in the car being like, "Watch it, you moron."
They are clearly. Where does this take place at?
The book is set in New England, but it seems like the movie's set in the Southwest. They all have accents.
That's right.
Yeah, because I mean, it is a Stephen King film, so it's set in Maine.
Right, everything is set in
the
Maine.
The book is set in Maine because it's Stephen King.
Yeah, and let me figure out where they shot this movie. They shot it in Santa Paula, California. So I would assume that they kind of just moved the setting to the Southwest.
Get rid of the palm trees.
Yeah. The De Palma trees.
So after the illustrious...
The Brian De Palma trees. 1976. Brian De Palma.
Thank you, Jeff. So after the illustrious car blowjob scene...
Tommy asked Carrie out.
Yeah.
Carrie's just hanging out in the library. She's researching telekinesis. to figure out, why can I move things?
Yeah.
She's justifiably a little concerned about this.
And she's looking at a lot of different books, and she's like trying to pick one out. She has a lot at her disposal. And there's a lot of books written about,
Yeah, the school library has a weirdly large telekinesis.
Like, I'm trying to remember what some of the titles were, but it's like,
The Secrets of the Mind.
The Secrets of the Mind, the science of.
I love how all of it was under, because she like goes through like almost like a Rolodex type thing.
Yeah.
Of like where all the books are. And she goes under miracles, and that's where all of the telekinesis books are under miracles.
I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm at the library, I just go to the miracles section and I find all my books about abilities.
Dude, that's like all I do in the library.
Yeah.
Just go in the miracle section, find one, and you pick up a line, and then you use it on a girl. Like, hey, girl, you want to talk about the science of miracles?
But who walks into the library? But Mophead himself, Tommy Ross.
Show some respect.
His hair, every step he takes, his hair bounces like 2 feet up. It's
I love it.
Crazy.
You think they had to do something about that in production? You're like, it's going up about 3 feet. We need hairspray.
It's the craziest hair. Reading the book, I did not imagine him looking like that, so that was a bit of a shock when I watched the movie right after the book. But he walks up to her, and he asks her out to the prom, as he was put up to by Sue, and he agreed to do it. Carrie immediately just says no, thinks that she's being punked.
Yeah.
Thinks he's messing with her. And she
Rightfully
runs off.
so.
Yeah, understandably so.
But even added to that, it's like she wouldn't be able to. She can't say yes, based on like how her mom feels about stuff. Like,
yeah, a lot of elements in play here. So
she thinks he's putting her in an impossible position because she does have feelings for him. She has a crush on him, and she complimented his poem in an earlier scene.
Yeah,
which I forgot to mention.
Which I totally thought that scene was going to end up like, oh yeah, I copied that off of Sue. Like, to me, I was not expecting that to actually be a Tommy Ross original. I was expecting it to be that classic high school scene where it's like the teacher's like, boy, Tommy, this handwriting sure is different from your own. But no, Tommy genuinely wrote a beautiful poem. That's very anti-jock stereotype.
That's the bit in the book with him, is that he's like set up like this typical jock, and he's great at baseball, but that he wants to go for an English degree.
Tommy.
And that he's actually just a very normal, sensitive guy.
Sit on my face, Tommy.
I love, it's like just a tiny line where he just, the professor, the teacher in that class, like it just starts being like a dick to Carrie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, he's like, does anyone have any critiques for this poem, for Tommy's poem? And Carrie just kind of goes, it's beautiful. And the teacher is just like, beautiful. Oh yeah, what a fucking critique beautiful is. and Tommy just under his breath is like, you suck.
Yeah. Tommy is the only person in this book who has a genuine care for Carrie, who actually kind of sees her as a person instead of an object of redemption.
And it's like, I kind of wish that was developed a little bit more earlier on. I mean, before he asks her to prom, and like between that scene and when he asked her to prom, I wish there was like a little bit more development in that area where you kind of really cement the fact that Tommy is like really nice. And because the whole time he seems, and rightfully so, he's like hesitant to do it.
Mm.
But I think it'd be more interesting if you had a little bit of like another scene that was like him doing something else nice for Carrie.
Yeah.
But genuinely. I think it would be
my only issue with this movie is that I think it could use about 10 more minutes in the first half.
Yeah, I would agree.
To kind of beef up the character relationships and go a little more into the telekinesis, maybe. I think that stuff's all present in the book, but they didn't really put it in the movie, and I think that's slightly to the detriment of the movie.
Yeah,
doesn't take away it's a great movie, but I think it's missing about 10 minutes of development there.
Mm-hmm. I think the prom in general was like half the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that just needed to get cut down in favor of more character development in general.
Well, we're going to get to it, but when we talk about the scene when Sue in slow motion is looking up the rope and sees the bucket and then looking down, like that whole realization bit when she's like realizing what's about to happen takes way too long because it's like slow motion. She's looking up the rope, sees the bucket, and it's like, oh, I wonder what that bucket's attached to. And then she looks down.
We'll get to the prom.
Yeah,
we'll get to the prom.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
But
we'll get to the
ridiculous.
Ropes. Carrie runs off after Tommy asks her. Sissy Spacek is just such good casting for this movie.
Yeah.
Which actually, I have an interesting note about the casting.
Really?
Real quick. So this film was art directed by Jack Fisk, who, you know, very big production designer, did you know, The Revenant, There Will Be Blood, among other things. You know, very successful production designer.
He likes a lot of blood, apparently.
At this point in time, production designer was not a term. The lead in the art department was the art director, and so he art directed this film. And Sissy Spacek was not considered for Carrie at all at first, but Jack Fisk is her husband and convinced Brian De Palma to cast her.
Really?
And the person who was actually going to play Carrie was Amy Irving, who plays Sue.
Interesting.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think that casting would have worked.
I mean, they got the perfect people for all these roles.
I can't see Amy Irving being Carrie, with all due respect, because she has more of a, like a, I don't want to say innocent vibe, but like just, I don't know. Like she plays Sue so well as like she's part of the popular girls, but she's not like a demented, demonic freak.
The thing that works so well about Sissy Spacek is she's a interesting looking person.
Yeah.
Like her face doesn't really conform to like the typical like beauty standards or anything like that.
Especially at that time.
Yeah. But she doesn't look bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's like the thing that works so well about her look in this movie is that she looks very abnormal, I guess is a way to say it. But around the end, when she has some more confidence, she's a very like beautiful looking person in her own way. And that's kind of what the movie is getting to, I suppose.
Yeah. What happens after the Tommy scene? We've been on that one for a little bit.
Oh yeah. Tommy scene.
She goes home and doesn't he like come back to her house? I think there's something in between that, but
he comes to her house.
Yeah, because between that is
The pigs.
She is in they're having another gym detention, and I'm bad at character names. Miss Collins sees Carrie like just hidden away in like a corner, and Miss Collins confronts Carrie, or like talks to Carrie, and Carrie talks about how Tommy asked her to prom. And, you know, Miss Collins tries to be like, hey, you know, this could be a good thing. He's cute. Mm-hmm. And then she confronts, Miss Collins confronts Sue and Tommy.
Yeah.
Because,
like, what are you guys doing? Rightfully so.
And then there was just this line where it's like, it feels so antiquated that she was like, you know, without a date, you can't go to prom.
and I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm just not going to prom.
Like Sue just, and I mean, I think it's interesting that Sue gives up entirely going to prom.
Yeah. I'm glad those rules weren't in effect when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm. In a sense, Sue's kind of doing this act of contrition where she's taking her own sacrifice to help Carrie, which she thinks too wrong, or right makes her wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
They're confronted by Miss Collins. Tommy insists that he's doing it out of genuine goodwill, and then he goes to her house.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, there's a line that Laurie says before she like answers the door. Maybe it's after that. But Piper Laurie has this amazing line when like Carrie is saying something that's like, like it gets rid of the pimples, Mom. And Piper Laurie is like, pimples are the Lord's way of chastising you.
Yeah.
That is like, man, like, listen, I don't agree with her Mormon ways, but that is like too real. And to any like middle school, high school girl out there listening to our podcast, God bless you for listening this long. But hey, the pimples are the Lord's way of chastising you. So, comment from Carrie.
Comment from Piper Laurie in the film Carrie, directed by Brian De Palma, released in 1976. Anyway, so Tommy comes to her house to ask her out to prom, try and get her in the room. And Piper Laurie, or her mom, is sleeping. Yeah. Carrie just only cracks the door open, and Tommy refuses to leave until she says yes.
I love this scene because it's like the first time we actually see like Carrie has a sense of awareness outside of like she thinks people think she's weird, because she knows like, well, aren't you going to go with Sue? Or like, I don't think this, like, my mom's not going to like it. And like the dialogue seems almost like out of character for Carrie as this like the social recluse, because she speaks like she's aware of things. And I wrote that down where it's like, you know, at first I thought she was just like a socially awkward person and there wasn't much more dimensionality to it. But it's in this scene when Tommy confronts her a second time to ask her to go to prom, when like you get a lot of like from Carrie of like, oh, like she's aware of things. Like she knows what's going on, and she knows like, hey, even if this isn't a prank, like I really don't want to do this because my mom is a freak and you're dating Sue and I just don't do that stuff very well. And I thought it was a great moment of character development for Carrie.
Yeah. Tommy's insisting upon her coming. It's he's been a little bit of a dick. I mean, he obviously doesn't know her situation, but he's like, I'm not leaving unless you come. And he's like the clingy guy type. A little bit. It's definitely a bit of an antiquated thing in his insistence.
Yeah.
But she does agree to get him to leave. Hi, Del.
Jeff says hi.
For people who are listening, we have Matt Abalde on video chat, and we can see Del, who is also in the apartment. So
You paused to say it, so I was like, I got it.
Yeah.
all right,
And
episode starts.
that will be cut out.
No, it won't.
Welcome everyone to Travolting. Today we are covering the 1976 Brian De Palma film.
Start episode now.
This is disaster. No, this is good. This is good.
Okay. So after Tommy is insisting, she eventually says yes.
Yeah, she eventually says yes, and Tommy leaves.
Yeah.
Next scene is the pigs.
I have a great line here by Travolta. So we're 44 minutes
John
in.
Travolta's just walking in,
So
and I'm gonna kill some pigs.
They're walking in.
now there's more
and by the way, it's Bates High School.
Bates Packing Mill.
Bates Packing Mill is the name of this like plant. So even more psycho, overtones here. But when they go into like get a pig, first off, they get in way too easily. Like if that's like how you can like get into like a meat packing plant and just get a pig, like why aren't pigs going missing every day? I don't know why.
I mean, I want a pet pig, so
yeah, and it's so easy apparently. So they I'm putting air quotes up, sneak into this place. They don't sneak. They just walk in, and he hands, I think, does Travolta do it? Travolta does it.
Yeah, he's the one
because
who does
he hops in because a friend's like too like chicken to do it. So he gets in, but before he does that, like Travolta, and I wrote this down as a quote, is yelling, "Get her done, man! Get her done!"
yeah,
in the most
get
like,
her done,
get her done.
in the most like
it's 3 times. He does it 3 fucking
in
times.
the most hick way.
Love John Travolta.
In the most hick way possible, which is not really like jockey, but he says it kind of with a hick twang.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, get her done, man, get her done.
John Travolta rules because he has that like accent. In spite of being from New Jersey, in so many of his movies, he has like a like almost that hick accent.
Sometimes,
but he's always playing good-looking bad boys.
Yeah, I don't know where it is. So they kill a pig.
Yeah, they kill a pig, and they gets blood. There's a beautiful scene. Well, maybe not beautiful, but there's a great quick montage of him hitting it and thrusting, and Chris getting aroused by it.
Did you get aroused by it, Jeff?
No, but Chris,
just want to clear the air here because our audience is a little confused right now.
Because also Chris is just like yes, as he thrusts his hammer and kills this pig.
Chris,
right? Well, also, what an inefficient way to kill a pig if you want its blood.
Let's hit it with a hammer.
You smash it to death with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, not a great way.
In the
but
book, they
to
just
our
use a
audience,
knife,
I just
but
want to
it's
say
not
Jeff
cinematic.
was not turned on by that scene. I just want to make that very clear, so people weren't confused by it.
But Chris was.
I'm just saying the way you were describing it, you were saying it really slowly, and I was like, "What's going on here, Jeff?" But I know Jeff is a good friend of mine, folks.
I think
he was not
to go
turned
with
on by the pig sledgehammer scene.
The hair rankings, the John Travolta hair rankings. You need to have a ranking of scenes that turn Jeff on.
Oh no!
I would say
currently this is number 1.
There was something in Devil Reigns. I think is going to take Trump over that.
But anyway. I was gonna say I love that this sequence is like it's a sex scene without the sex. Like the whole thing, like no,
Jeff, I'm trying to do you some favors here.
I'm trying. No,
and now it's number 1 for sure.
No, Brian De Palma is such a good director. He uses this in keeping with the movie's themes about like sexuality and whatnot. He's using this scene as like. The only thing that can turn Chris on is her hatred for Carrie. Like when she's going down on Billy earlier, she has to say Carrie at the end to finish. Now that they're in there, the thing that's really arousing her is that this is going to harm Carrie. And so I think that's a good bit of character that he makes this essentially a sex scene without the sex of just Travolta killing a pig and Carrie finding it powerful for her.
Jeff is not turned on by this scene. Making that clear.
Me out here trying to have real ideas.
I am helping you, man. I'm telling our audience you were not turned on by that scene. So after they kill a pig,
yes,
and
they kill a pig.
Blood,
they drain its blood, put it into some buckets,
blood.
And then they go to. I don't know if this happens exactly, but they go to the high school, and Chris.
Prom's happening pretty soon after this.
Yeah, prom's happening soon after this. Chris and Billy hang up the pig's blood in the bucket on the rafters above the
stage,
above the stage in the auditorium.
Yeah,
or gym room.
Also, they get one of their friends to like talk to the person organizing the prom, and I just thought it was so.
It's such a funny.
That's
scene.
just a little funny little bit where this guy like walks up to the prom organizer, is like, "Hey, I want to, be involved in organizing prom." And then the guy's like, "It's tomorrow."
And he's like, "Yeah." And the guy's like, "Well, can you show up at 6:30 tomorrow?" He's like, "I'll be there at 8."
I'll be there at 8. And what job does he ask, nonetheless, but to count the ballots?
Yeah.
It's like...
To collect and count the ballots, yeah.
Like, okay, listen, Peter. I don't know if that guy's name is Peter, the guy who is in charge of the prom. But Peter, listen to me. If you're out there, if some guy comes up to you and it's like, the day before prom, and he has a history with some of the people that are going, and he asks you, "I want to count the prom ballots." Don't fucking let him count the prom ballots. Like,
I heard that in the Bates County there was a lot of fraudulent balloting going on.
No! Moving on!
A lot of fake news.
Stop! No!
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so he starts counting the ballots.
Yes, there's a lot of fraudulent balloting. We're showing up at Bates.
A lot of illegal
tomorrow.
ballot counting.
Stop the count.
Some people who were dead were voting in ballots. So okay.
Well, I heard there were dead people voting, and anyway, this is being recorded 2 days before the inauguration.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so prom.
Yeah. Well, first Carrie tells her mom she's going to prom.
Oh, this scene.
And they're at the dinner table, and Carrie says, "I'm going to prom," and her mom throws her tea at her, and Carrie is sloshed with tea. It's really cool how it lines up. The tea hits her, and Carrie closes her eyes, is shocked, and all the lights in the room go off. All the candles snuff out, and all the overhead lighting turns off.
Carrie ain't got time for this shit no more.
She's reaching kind of the apex of her powers.
Good choice of words.
And she's telling her mom, "I am going to the prom. You cannot control me. I don't believe you anymore."
The apex of her powers.
Yeah, it's a good line. But she does so, and the mom starts praying and telling her, "You're sinful. You are evil." And Carrie uses her abilities and like throws her mom down and says, "I am going. I am making my dress." It's a very good scene in which Carrie finally kind of achieves control of her situation, which will lead to unfortunate events. Before that moment, Carrie has finally, become herself. The next sequence is...
I would say that's the scene where she like officially takes control of the situation.
She becomes Carrie, the titular Carrie.
the titular
She's
Carrie.
no longer Margaret White's daughter. She is Carrie.
She is Carrie with 2 R's.
Broken free.
Not
Next scene,
Cassie.
Cassie.
Not Cassie, not
Yeah,
Kathy.
not Cassie.
Carrie.
But the next scene, she's made her dress. She's waiting in her bedroom. And her mom is like pacing back and forth, being like, oh, you're in a dress. The men can see your dirty pillows, is what she calls her breasts.
They're breasts, Mom. Every woman has them.
She's like, oh, first comes the blood, then comes boys.
They sniff it out.
They sniff it out. They take you to a roadhouse. Her mom was herself abused as a younger woman.
Yeah.
And
I'm
in
sure
some way,
they're
that's what
laughing.
led to her like fundamentalist beliefs.
She was saying, but I liked it, and I should have like. She said something like, "I should have like let you go, let you be with
she
God."
should. I should have killed you when you were born.
Well, I should have let you be with God. She
Yeah.
didn't say kill, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, that
She
to
says,
her
like-
death is just sending someone to God to be sorted out.
Yeah.
But
Not murder.
her mom's like, and this is the one moment that's very different from the book. In the book, her mom locks herself in a closet and prays when Tommy comes. I like that here, her mom, like, you get a hint that she actually does care about Carrie, and she's like, if you stay, I'll go down and tell him you're sick. Like,
Right.
she's willing to just go and tell Tommy that Carrie's sick to keep her away from the prom.
Yeah.
She's like she's trying her last effort to keep Carrie under her sway. But Carrie uses her powers and like attaches her to the bed. And then she looks at the window and Tommy shows up. Carrie goes out to meet him and they head to prom. I was shocked to discover that they get to prom before the hour mark of this movie. They are at the prom at the 57 point, which is
Wow.
crazy.
Well, it goes to show how long this prom.
Prom
does
is
go
like a
on.
40-minute sequence.
Yeah, it goes on
Yeah.
for a while. But can we just talk about, and Matt, I got to pull you in on this one, the production design of the prom.
Prom is beautiful.
It is
Holy
very beautiful.
shit.
But I love that it's beautiful, but still a little high school cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the first shot that you see is like the outside where they have the sign over the door, and it's like some of the letters are a little uneven. You could tell they're cut by students, but it's still very, it's nice. It's like it says like among the stars or something along those lines, because it's like that's the theme of their prom.
I think that was the theme of my senior prom, Among the Stars.
Such a
Nobody died, though.
you did not burn down.
We did not burn down
Unfortunately.
the high school, thankfully. But like to go to your point, Matt, about like, it's beautiful, but it also looks like that high school cheesiness. Like I remember Tommy, this is later, but Tommy and Carrie are gonna go dance, and like he has to like brush aside some of these hanging like ornaments that are like just
Yeah.
unknowingly there. And to that point, like like as beautiful as it is, it still looks like it was set up by like a high school commit.
What vibes
commission
this dance has? This prom is I love the vibe of it.
I wanted Marty McFly to just started,
Yeah,
coming
it
out.
does really remind me of the Back to the Future prom.
Enchantment Under the Sea.
Earth Angel.
Oh, I want to talk about one scene before this.
Okay.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
When the boys go to get their prom, their tuxedos.
Yeah, the tuxedo one.
And they're all like, you gotta get this. And they're like, yeah, it's only $50, man. You got rent. It's such a funny sequence.
It's like, do you like the ruffles? Like, oh, ruffles probably aren't for me. It's like, well, then did you want to get one with the ruffles? Like, because they have the classic short but like Skippy guy.
It's
That's
so-
hyper.
I was like, this should be Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
It should be
Young
Joe Pesci.
It is such a scene of just guys being dudes. It's so funny.
I'm convinced that guy was Joey Pants. You can't tell me otherwise.
Let me tell you something. That was more Joe Pesci. But yeah, they're at the prom. It's a beautiful sequence. Carrie is hesitant to dance.
Yeah. Which Tommy is like respectful of it.
Yeah.
He's not
Yeah.
like, well, if I'm not gonna dance with you, I'm gonna dance. No, he's like, he sits down, chills, like he's okay with it. And then Miss Collins comes up and they're having a conversation. Tommy offers his seat. Like he's being a real cordial gentleman.
And Miss
with this whole
Collins is
thing.
just happy to see Carrie be happy. And
Yeah.
the scene's actually just very powerful.
And,
Because
and I love that Miss Collins is like, she's like, there's like, she kind of puts off like any pressure to dance, because
Yeah.
she's like, when it was my prom, I didn't dance because we had to like walk to prom and I had like 3-inch heels.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I have like a few like quick things to talk about the prom, and then moving forward. But like first off, I said the thing about the production design is beautiful, but when they enter through those double doors from the outside, like that entry crane shot into the prom when it like gets really close and then it comes in as a medium close up to Carrie from a wide. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful introduction that just highlights all the production designers' work that then carries into a story because it's like you see this big giant vast place, a lot of people, and then you zone into Carrie and it's like, oh man, that's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's a big space, but it's her story.
And then the second thing is this movie, because I've seen it before a while back, but rewatching it, it's like this movie does have a lot of rewatchable qualities, and I feel like the thesis of that is within the prom scene because you know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And part of you, it's like you feel happy that Carrie's happy.
Yeah.
You feel happy that Tommy is a gentleman. You feel happy that Sue is cool with it. And there's so many of these amazing, beautiful things, and Carrie's having a good time. And there's like this duality, this battle, inner battle.
You know what's gonna happen.
That's happening because it's like I'm so happy for Carrie, but I know what's gonna happen. I'm so happy for Carrie.
Such a heartbreaking sequence.
Yeah,
there's just this dread, or you know what's gonna happen, but you're just so happy for this poor girl who's lived a terrible life to have this moment of joy.
Yeah.
When you know it eventually. They start collecting homecoming or the homecoming king and queen ballots, and you know they have the Stooges who like swap them out with a ton of because Tommy and Carrie are both up for king and queen, and they like swap the ballots out for like a ton for Tommy and Carrie. And then, you know, they announce Carrie as the homecoming queen. She like goes up and I'm like, I kind of want to just turn off the movie.
Yeah, right.
What if you just turn off right as she's up on the stage and you're just like, yep, she made the homecoming queen.
She made the homecoming queen. Cut to black. That's all I want. That's why I think the movie is so rewatchable because it's like that all builds up for you.
It rips your heart out.
It rips your heart out. And if you haven't seen this movie, then the better. I
think on like a first viewing, it's like, you know, you get that happiness as it kind of builds up to this moment where it's like, you know, they announce this homecoming king and queen, and then like I said, you just want to turn it off. Yeah. But like I feel like when it's a rewatch, the whole thing is just tension and just, you know, you're just on edge the whole time.
Yeah, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
And I should clarify, like even if you're watching it the first time, like they are implementing these subplots of them planting the bucket of blood and all that stuff.
No, it's there. It's there.
Even if
it's
you're watching
there.
it for the first time, there's still that like plausible possibility that it might not go as planned and maybe they don't dump
it's so
the bucket.
Distracting the prom in a way where it's just like it's so, you know, the lights and how everything is like glittery and glistening and like, you know, it's just the texture and the colors and how happy everyone seems. It almost just distracts you for like enough time to kind of forget about it. And then, it's just.
Well, let me ask you too a question. Like, would it have been more impactful, the blood dumping scene, if like we didn't, like maybe we don't get no scene at all and it just came out of nowhere, but like the scenes we did get were even more subtle in terms of what they were planning on doing, that the bucket came off more as a shock? Like, do you feel like that would have been more impactful?
The interesting thing is that it's actually more subtle in the movie than it is in the book.
Oh yeah.
The book is incredibly specific about what the blood is for,
what
and
they're
the
going
whole
to do
plan.
with it. Yeah.
I like that the movie doesn't tell you what their plan is. You just see it happening.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is this gonna do? And then it only becomes like super apparent at the end when you see them standing under that bucket at the homecoming as the king and queen.
Yeah. It's so hard to get into that first impression mindset, but I feel like even you could even dial back a little bit more to make it even more subtle because like Matt said, it almost does become somewhat of a distraction because you see the bucket multiple times and you almost have this inclination like, oh God, like I know and you had the scene where the jock got the job of counting the ballots. So all this stuff is adding up. And I just wonder like if they like cut one or two things, like maybe they didn't include the ballot guy scene and maybe they didn't include them hanging the bucket. All they got was like they're killing a pig and you don't know why they're killing the pig. You know, they're angry at Carrie. And then
I think if they were to do that, they would have to show a scene of them putting like blood in a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then the bucket does kind of come out of nowhere. But I think, if you could rework this, you could rework it in a way that would because you can almost be convinced that this is the like happily ever after, and that
Yeah, and that's why we turn off the movie.
The real climax of the film was her confronting her mom. Like you can almost be convinced of that.
Yeah.
Her confronting her mom's almost like a false climax previously.
It is, and I think it does really well as being a false climax.
Like you think that like you said, the Cinderella story, but
So we're already in the prom.
Before we get to the blood,
Okay.
I want to talk about the spinning shot because
that was done really well.
I have a note that just says the spinning shot scene is what movies are all about.
Yeah.
That scene is so cool. It says in the trivia that they had them on a platform and they were spinning the platform as they rotated the camera in the opposite direction.
So it seemed like
that
they were
makes
faster.
sense,
Which is very cool. But what a just a beautiful sequence of film. That is movie.
With like all the lights and glistening kind of bokeh, like as bokeh in like the background.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
And then it's followed up by another beautiful shot where they go back to sit down and the camera's following them, and it follows the ballot people walking around collecting all the false ballots,
planting in those subliminal
It's like a
messages.
2-minute long Steadicam crane shot where it does all that. We follow the false ballots. Then we go back and we see Sue enter the building and hide behind the stage. And the camera stops on her, looks at the rope, goes up the rope, follows it to the bucket.
This bit.
In one shot to the bucket, and then looks over the bucket down at Carrie and turns into a zoom lens, which goes into a single on Carrie. It's an amazing shot.
But it takes too long. That bit when Sue is looking up the rope and it goes.
No,
into,
that's a different shot.
That's a different shot.
Oh, that's a different shot.
I'm talking about a different shot.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a different shot. This, because it does such a good, just it's
you see the whole plan.
It shows you the action. It introduces Sue as being there, and also gets you you just get it's a masterclass of a oneer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
the ideal oneer.
So then they're calling up the ballots, right?
Yes.
And they say we have a winner, and they say Tommy Ross, Carrie White, and
Tommy Ross and
again,
Carrie White.
Going back to what we were saying, how she's walking up, they have this spotlight on her and Tommy, but more particularly Carrie, because she's the focus point.
She's
of it.
glistening.
Oh,
she's so happy.
Oh my God, Sissy Spacek, is that? Just beautiful performance on that one. Just captured the whole vibe.
I love that. One of the things that Miss Collins says to her is if you curl up your hair a little bit at the ends, and she does that. She just has little curls at the end of her hair.
Yeah.
And I like that she's basically she the one person who is an adult kind of motherly figure in a way, aside from her own mom.
Yeah.
She just immediately takes her advice and goes for that.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that we kind of just skipped over is that when because every table gets a ballot.
Yeah.
And so Tommy and Carrie have to vote, and Carrie is
I did skip this.
So she's so religious in a way that she's against false modesty and stuff, and is doesn't want to vote for themselves.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to vote for them because that'd be unmodest.
And then Tommy convinces her I think they both say to hell with false modesty.
Yeah.
And
which is the whole point of the movie. To hell with
I think
false
it's
modesty.
Oh my God, that's very true.
Yeah. It's the whole the crux
even
of the whole
Sue
movie.
is false modest trying to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's a really nice little thing that happens that just it helps. I think it just helps Carrie open up.
Yeah.
Because it's she's this outsider who Tommy is bringing in, and she's actually having a genuinely good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the procession, when they're walking up the steps and going to their spot, and when she is just glistening, just beautiful performance by Sissy Spacek.
And Sue is smiling behind the scenes, but then Sue spots something,
and this is the slow-mo bit that I have beef with.
3 hours pass.
Literally 3 hours go by, and it's just Sue slowly looking up the rope, and it's in slow motion too, so it just drags on so long. That could have been done without the pan tilt shot. It looks like they put the camera on a tripod and they just follow the rope up. bro, just cut. Just make it static. Make static on her face and say, okay, now look up, Sue. She looks up. Okay, Sue, now look down. All right, let's do the series. Do that again. Do that. All right, we got it. Cut. And then you get those inserts of the Bucky, get the inserts of them, and you don't have to do the fucking pan tilt thing because it lasts way too long.
A very well done sequence, but it does last for a tad too long. You just want Sue to yell out, "Bucket of blood!" or
Bucket of blood!
or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
and I love
it. Gets you so tense, and I get
it
why.
seems like Sue could do something about it too.
Yeah,
but she doesn't.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like the rope, it goes so Chris and Billy are under the stage, and so the rope goes from like under the stage up like the like kind of like set wall, and it goes up and up to the rafters and up to where the bucket is, and Sue is like behind the like stage wall thing, like with her hand on the rope.
It's almost like Sue is too curious about what's going to happen to act until she finally decides to, and it's too late.
Because when she goes down to like where she sees Chris and Billy, John Travolta,
And Miss Collins yanks her away.
Yeah, because she thinks like she's the source of whatever's about to happen. It's like she immediately goes to Sue, which Sue's just a sweet girl and she wants to help, but she's like, "No, you're one of them." And
I mean, Chris or Miss Collins sees the bucket, if I remember correctly.
She sees it the last minute before it falls.
last minute, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then the bucket falls.
And Carrie is splashed with pig's blood. Tommy is hit on the head with the bucket and collapses.
Okay, contention. So I wrote down like Tommy and Carrie walking on the stage. Here's what I wrote down. I don't know much about physics, but would a metal bucket falling approximately 20 feet kill Tommy? Because that's what's implied, that he gets hit with the bucket and he dies.
In the book, the idea is that it just knocks him out and then he dies in the fire.
In the fire. In the remake, the bucket kills Tommy.
It would be kind of cool if the bucket hit his head and then his head just flew off. Like it's
But like that was something for me because I remember, maybe it was because I watched the remake a while back, but like I remember I was thinking like it wasn't just the pig's blood that drew Carrie over the edge, but it was like Tommy got hit in the head and whether he was killed or hurt and it made her go on a killing spree. I thought because he died and she just like kind of lost it from that.
Yeah.
So, but that was my big contention where I was like, come on. All right, man. Because he even like, it hits his head and he's like, ah, and then collapses.
In some respects, Tommy gets off better than most everyone else. Because he just gets a quick tap in the head, he's out, and then he dies.
Right.
Everyone else has to
Burn.
be alive as they burn and drown.
Electrocuted. Yeah.
Sue is the only one who gets out because Miss Collins had thrown her out of the room.
I forgot, Miss Collins doesn't get out.
Yeah, Miss Collins does not get out.
She dies a graphic
She
death.
dies
She
horribly.
gets split in half.
That's like borderline pterodactyl Jurassic World death right there.
But they're all there, and they all start laughing at Carrie.
Of course. Starting with
Miss Collins.
Norma.
I mean, Norma's the first.
Norma's obvious Red Hat Girl. Red Hat Girl is probably gay, starts laughing.
She starts hooting and hollering. Everyone else, even Miss Collins, tune on it. And we get this really cool sequence of editing where it's like, split screens and like a bug eye view and all of these like octagons.
Yeah, there's like a specific thing that was called like a hydroscope or like.
Yeah, it is such a cool scene.
Yeah.
As Carrie just
and then you get the
loses her mind.
Reverberations of her mom saying, they're going to laugh at you. They're going to laugh at you. And they're laughing at her.
And so she opens her eyes wide and shuts all the doors.
Yep.
She turns the sprinklers on. She starts flinging the electrical equipment. And this is all done in like these cross cuts.
People start fleeing to the doors, trying to get out, but the doors aren't opening.
The only people who had gone out were Sue, who was out there earlier, and then Chris and Billy had run out as soon as they dropped the blood on her.
Right. Because they were watching from the window.
So Carrie starts electrocuting people. We see Norma die. We see Miss Collins be split in half by something falling from the ceiling. It's pretty brutal. Intense. Fire starts. People are burning to death. It's very intense.
It's like, I think
it's a very intense
MC
sequence.
or the principal or whatever who's holding the microphone, and then she uses her powers.
The
and
principal gets like
death.
blown off the stage. It's an incredible bit of just filmmaking and a very intense sequence where Carrie gets her revenge on all of these people.
Yeah, and the kind of sick thing about this is when you're watching this, it's like, fuck them all, Carrie.
Yeah. It's like
Kill 'em all.
going back to your point about false modesty. In a way, all these people showed their true colors. They voted for her and pretended to care when she got up there.
Yeah.
But the second something happens, even Miss Collins, they laugh at her.
Yeah.
They're all just pretending to care and be modest, and
Right.
they all die for it.
Yep, they all do. So then
So Carrie walks out of the burning auditorium, not a single survivor.
door shut behind her.
The door shut behind her.
Which I thought was an interesting ad. Because it's not just that I'm going to kill all these people, but when she walks out, the door's open and the door's closed behind her. To me, it's like, no one's getting out of here.
Yeah, no one escapes.
They're dying. And it adds a little bit of intentionality to it.
And she starts walking home covered in blood down the street. A fire truck passes by her on the way to school. And who is coming at her down the road? Chris and Billy.
Our
John
boy
Travolta,
John Travolta.
driving.
Luscious hair.
He, after seeing all the commotion, is just like, I got an idea. We're going to just hit her with the car, and that'll work out well. So
It doesn't.
Forget everything we just saw in...
he and Chris drive the car at her. Carrie flips it over. We see John Travolta and Nancy Allen spinning around in the car. Lands upside down and explodes. And John Travolta goes boom. It's not in the rest of this movie.
He's he's like, he got her done, man. Got her done.
This is 2 movies in a row where John Travolta's had a fascinating death scene.
Very fascinating death scene.
Melted and then exploded.
Yep.
Good for him. We're going to rank the Travolta deaths as well.
So far, Devil's Reign still reigns.
Yeah, Devil, he melts. You can't top it.
May I butt in with something from before? So I did the math.
Oh, did you? He did the monster.
About a bucket falling. So if we assume it's 20 feet. That's 6 meters ish.
Yeah.
Copy that.
The average weight of a metal bucket is 0.272 kilograms. And so taking 9.8 meters per second squared, which is the acceleration of gravity, that means that it falls at a rate of 10.84 meters per second, which means it falls for 1.11 seconds and would hit with an impact of 16 joules. Now, for context, a punch is 7,000 joules or 700 joules.
So it's literally just a tap on the head.
Yeah.
Why is Tommy all bent out of shape?
Tommy got dead.
Tommy had a weak skull.
I mean, it is a metal bucket, and who knows? With like some older buckets, they have like an edge at the bottom, somewhat.
Yeah.
Like an elevated bottom because they have edges around it. So like maybe like that edge that might have been like sharp and small enough that like cracked his skull or something. But then he would have died of a brain bleed, and that would have been slow.
But
Yeah.
Tommy.
Point is, Tommy not dead.
Everyone dead. Everyone's dead at this point.
Yeah.
Carrie gets home.
Carrie gets home.
She gets home. She walks upstairs and just stands in like the attic bedroom with just covered in blood. And this is the scariest shot in the movie because she's just standing there and you're like, where is the mom? And it's not until, if you're really looking for it, you can see the very faint shadowy outline of the mom standing behind the door to the bathroom.
I love that she's next to a mannequin too.
Yes. Like you can
you see the shape and you see, like, I feel like the hair is the first thing that draws your eye, but it's like, oh, but that's next to a mannequin and she sits so fucking still.
The second you notice the mom's silhouette behind the door is the scariest shit I've ever seen. I was like, I wanted to like pause the movie and like take a breath.
Yeah.
And it just lasts for so long. You're just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah. The thing that I noticed was her hand.
Yeah.
At first, like I saw her hand and I was like, oh, that's a person hand.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the mom.
And then Carrie walks into the bathroom and a very brief flash of light casts on the mom's face. So you get textually just seeing that she's there. You follow Carrie into the bathroom. You're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And it just, nothing happens for so long. And you get so tense. Carrie takes a bath. She washes off all the blood. She's remarkably chill about just killing all these people. But, she's happy.
Yeah.
In the book at this point, she's destroying the town. She's lighting gas stations on fire. But she washes herself of essentially everyone. She's Yeah, literally doing so. Gets out, dries herself off. Her mom comes in. Oh, wait, no, she does. Her mom does not come in. She walks out back into the attic. The door shuts and the mom steps behind her. And Carrie's like, Mom? And she turns around and sees her mom there. She's like, Mom, they all laughed at me. You were right. And Margaret's like, you were conceived due to a rape, and I thought I should have sent you to God then. It's not too late now. I can still do it. And she pulls a knife out of the ground and stabs Carrie in the back.
Cold-blooded.
It is intense, to say the least. Carrie she throws her mom across the room. Carrie stumbles down the steps. Her mom's still coming after her with the knife. Craziness.
It's at this point when Carrie is crawling away to the kitchen.
A bloody fight between the two of them. And finally, Carrie does not want to hurt her mom, but she's ready to. And it's not until her mom's coming at her with the knife again that she uses her telekinesis, picks up knives from the kitchen, stabs her mom's hands to the wall.
Jesus style.
And then throws 3 knives into her mom's stomach in the exact same positions that really creepy Jesus
I was about to
style.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the exact same position that there are arrows in the Jesus, creepy Jesus statue.
It's a very evocative image of her mom just crucified in the kitchen as she dies. Carrie pulls her mom to the ground and starts sobbing. Everything in her life has been ruined. And she destroys the house.
Okay, point of contention. Does Carrie destroy the house? Because I thought, here's my issue. I thought so at first. But then she's dragging her mom to the prayer room, right? And she sort of goes unconscious or dies there, and the house still starts to crumble.
I see it as Carrie destroying the house.
Yeah.
I
saw it as the wrath of God.
She has no reason to live anymore. Because the final shot of them in there is that you move onto the creepy Jesus statue as they're pulled into the ground.
Yeah.
I suppose it is kind of up to your
because you look at it and the house is shaking, and it just adds to that kind of
dread.
Yeah, or that kind of just magical. Oh, the statue is doing something.
Yeah,
especially because the eyes are still glowing.
Yeah,
this is the punishment.
Yeah. Which is why it kind of led me to believe.
What a great miniature. That they used for that. Doing something like a collapsing is hard to do because realistically it's a miniature and you have to do it in slow motion. Because of how things fall. And it was done really well.
Yeah, so but that's not where the movie ends, which I kind of am not a fan of. I thought the movie could have ended there in a sense of that like we were just saying earlier, the movie could have benefited from 10 extra minutes in the first act. And this is where I thought the third act was going a little bit too overboard. Because honestly, it's the second act is really small in this movie. So it has a very short second act. And I don't think it needs to be longer.
Yeah.
I think the first act needs to be longer. But I think the third act is just so long that it could have been shortened.
You think we could have just ended with the house collapse?
I absolutely
Carrie and
do.
her mom's death?
I didn't need the whole
Sue
business being haunted and she's gonna always
PTSD,
remember Carrie.
Yeah.
And it's we kind of get it. The thing that drew me out of it especially was when Sue's mom's on the phone, it's she's not going to all the funerals, and she has this dream. You almost know right away it's a dream too, because she's in a wedding dress.
It's shot like a dream.
It's very ethereal.
Yeah.
And the house is rubble, and not even rubble. It's just flat, and there's a for sale sign on it.
That someone wrote Carrie White burns in hell on.
And that was something I thought
down,
that was something I thought was interesting. They said Carrie White burns in hell, which to me insinuates that they knew Carrie was the cause of everything.
Yeah.
Which makes me think so everybody knew she had powers or knew afterwards.
Yeah, because she burned down the school.
How? But you could have made how
I would assume Sue told them.
Well, do they know for a fact that to make 2 and 2 together? Because again, in a universe where telekinesis has never been performed before, right? And you see this floating hose hosing people and things catching on fire. It's I know who did it. That girl who wore the prom queen
there's
crown.
Sue's the only survivor, And there's that scene where she's like laying in the bed and the mom's like, no, we don't want any more press reports. So I'd assume that she's the only survivor. She told everyone what happened.
That I think Carrie had telekinetic powers and killed everybody.
And even if she didn't think Carrie had telekinetic powers, she said Carrie White did this. And everyone obviously has to believe it. She's the only source. Maybe she doesn't even mention the telekinesis and said Carrie was on the stage and she just somehow blocked everyone in and turned on the electricity and the water and killed everyone.
I feel like if I was an FBI detective, I'd be like, Sue, you got to give me more than that. Got to give me more than that, honey.
That's
all right?
that's why I like, and obviously this is harder to do in a film, but in the book, it's presented. There are a lot of chapters, and it's kind of presented as like this is
the oral history of
it, right? Yeah. Like, and it's like it's written almost in a way that's like there's a reporter going after this, and there's like different articles that you read in the book and stuff. And I think that it paints a better picture, but that's also because
it's a book. In
the book and in the remake, it's more clear that it's Carrie because Carrie goes and destroys the entire town.
Yeah. So everyone's like,
it's this bitch.
Yeah, it was her.
So someone could make the argument that it was a freak accident that killed everyone in the prom.
Which is why that Carrie White burns in hell thing really messed with me a little bit, because I'm like, how are people going to make 2 and 2 together and think like, oh, Carrie White did this, whatever means she did it, we don't know, but maybe she had telekinetic powers, I don't know, or maybe she had like,
we also don't know that that's actually there.
True. Well, because it is a dream sequence.
I would also assume that if the school burnt down and then a house was destroyed and it was Carrie's house, you could probably put 2 and 2 together and assume she had something to do with it.
So, but then Sue approaches,
and she puts flowers
and then a bloodied up hand comes and grabs it, and then Sue wakes up from her dream screaming, and that's how the movie ends.
Yes.
Could have done without that part, but that's how the movie ends. So, wrapping up here.
Great movie.
Fantastic.
What a picture.
Fantastic movie, and it's got rewatchability. So this one I would definitely recommend to our listeners to pick this one up on Amazon or YouTube, rent it for $4, and it's
if you have Stars on Hulu or Amazon Prime or the Stars just in general streaming, it's free.
Yeah,
ideally you've watched this movie before listening to this episode, but if you didn't, watch this movie.
Spoiler alert.
And then re-listen to this episode. And while you're at it, make sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast.
Nice subtle transition there.
But did you guys know they made a sequel to this movie?
Yeah.
I did.
It was called The Rage, Carrie 2. It does not at all involve Carrie. The only
from 1999. It's like way after.
Yeah, it's 1999. The only recurring character is Sue. I mean, she's the only survivor, but played by Amy Irving again.
Is she a guidance counselor?
According to this Wikipedia page for this movie, Carrie is the half sister of the main character in this one.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it says it follows the younger half sister of Carrie, also suffering with telekinesis.
It sounds like a movie that I do not want to watch.
Well, at least John Travolta is not in that one.
Yeah, we have no need.
So we don't need to pick up that one, but
it is curious though that it's one of those weird movies where they waited 23 years to make a sequel.
Yeah. Well, Matt, on behalf of Travolting Podcast, we want to thank you very much for appearing on as a guest.
Before we wrap him out, Matt, is there anything else you want to say about this movie?
Well, there's another little piece of trivia that I found interesting.
What?
I was looking at the IMDb trivia. Apparently, Steven Spielberg was invited a lot to be on to the set of this, via Brian De Palma.
Yeah,
because De Palma told him there were and this is in quotes, a lot of cute girls there, and apparently Spielberg asked out all of the women on set of Carrie.
Spielly, you old horn
and only
dog.
one person said yes, and it was Amy Irving, and then they got married.
Oh, we love
70s were a different time.
The 70s were a very different time.
Yes.
All right, Jeff. So we
pro tip: never go to a movie set and just start asking people out. It's weird.
It's weird.
Everybody knows you text all the female grips on the call sheet.
What you know is what you have to do is go on the call sheet.
Yeah.
You get
Email
everyone's
everyone.
phone numbers and start texting them.
Yes.
That's what you have to do.
That's my Tinder app.
Yes. For anyone who does not work in the film industry and wants to, don't do any of that. Don't be a creep. We're at a point in Hollywood now where we're finally reckoning with all this disgusting behavior of the past 100 years. Let's keep it going and don't go to set and just start asking women out.
Yeah. All right,
Even
Jeff.
if you're Steven Spielberg.
Yes, even if you're Steven Spielberg, and I love the man, but don't do that, Stevie.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. You have 15 scarves. You don't have to do that.
All right, Jeff. So on the topic of sexual harassment, should we wrap this up?
Yes, on the topic of we've made our PSA. This episode brought to you by no one because we don't have any sponsors.
Yet.
Thank you all for listening. Thank
Brought
you,
to by
Matt.
Scott and Holscher.
Thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Of course.
It was a pleasure, and we'll have you on again soon enough. Make sure to tune in next week for our episode on The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. A movie that is shockingly on Amazon Prime for free. So if you have Prime, feel free to watch The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Make sure to, as I said, rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, etc. You can write a review if possible. It would be deeply appreciated. You can find us at Travolting Pod on Twitter or Instagram for updates and various fun stuff about the show. You can pop into our Reddit at r/Travolting. Hopefully some form of discussion will happen there if anyone's interested. You can email any questions you have to travoltingpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney. You can find Stuart on
Instagram, Stuart at StuartElmore95.
don't follow him, but do follow me. And then finally, special thanks to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design.
We love you,
and,
Rebecca.
Michael Van Bodegum Smith for our theme music.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. You're a great guy. Thank you again to Matt for joining, and join us again next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
Bye, folks.